Hi everyone, John Lane here, back with a series of snare drum fundamentals with limited resources. Hopefully you all have pads and sticks. That's basically all you'll need for these exercises. There are a couple, the roll exercises, the ornament exercises that work better on a drum, so that's how I'll demonstrate those, but by all means you should be able to play all of these exercises with what you've got. So the first thing I want to walk you through is what I call a neutral fulcrum or an open fulcrum. Some people also call it a three-point orchestral fulcrum. But I want to make sure that that's distinct from what you might be playing with right now, which most of us start with, which is a closed fulcrum. This idea, okay, where this space is closed here. You're thinking of the fulcrum as being on the index and thumb. That's, in other words, that's the place where the stick pivots. All right, what we're going to do is we're actually going to move that fulcrum back by one finger. We're going to move it to the middle finger. So now the stick is going to pivot here. And there's a slightly different roll for the index finger. But before we get there, we're going to figure out how to get set up for that and why, sort of where does this idea come from. So I learned this from Ed Soph, who walked me through what I'm going to walk you through right now in a drum set lesson. And his point was, you need to study your own anatomy to find out where the most relaxed position is, of what the most relaxed position is of your hand, and then build the technique around that relaxed shape rather than the other way around. So if you'll just stand with your hands down to your side, I like to put one foot slightly in front of the other when I play snare drum, but as long as your feet are shoulder width apart, okay, nice and relaxed from up here in the shoulders, everything is hanging here. Then from your elbow, you simply lift to this position. And just to make sure everything from the elbow down should be totally relaxed, just give it a shake there to make sure there's no tension, there's nothing there. Okay, from this point, you hinge the wrist into this position. And this is where you want to study your hand. This is where you want to pay attention to what's going on here. As you hinge your wrist, trying to keep everything from there down totally relaxed, what I found was that my fingers sort of collapsed into my hand, and they created this sort of naturally open shape in my palm, which I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so I do this. That's the most relaxed position right there that my hand is in. Now if I take that position and I put a stick into that position, that then is the most relaxed possible position that my hand can be in, right there. So just to define it a bit, there are three main points of contact with the stick now. So the thumb, the index finger, and the middle finger are the 3 points of contact. Now these other fingers, sometimes they're connected with the stick, sometimes they're not connected with the stick. I promise that lightning will not strike if these fingers come away from the stick. I know that many teachers teach that those fingers should always be on the stick, and that's true for some applications, but not for all. All right, so it's perfectly fine that those fingers come away sometimes. All right, now the roll of the middle finger is, that's where the stick is going to pivot now. Okay, that's the new fulcrum. The roll of the index and the thumb are more for stabilization this way rather than this way. All right, so I'm not really using my index finger like this anymore. I'm using it more to stabilize the stick here, and this finger takes over that roll. Now I mentioned sometimes with stick control, which is the very first exercise that we'll go over, I definitely use those back fingers. They're integral to the control. But often on rolls and ornaments like the 4-stroke rough, I'll show you both of those exercises, it's primarily the middle finger that does those minute controls. And you'd be pretty surprised at the kind of feedback that you can get from just one finger and the amount of control that's possible there, assuming you're getting a good stabilization here.